Sergio. Justin Thomas, PGA champion. Touchdown, Alabama. North Carolina. They're not going to be denied this time.
Week 11 in the NFL.
Hey, and there's the NFL's #1 rated passer. That is Alex Smith versus the 1-8 Giants today. Both quarterbacks will be dealing with 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts at the Meadowlands.
And here's the other quarterback with all the drama surrounding the Giants. Eli Manning has never quit on his team. The two-time Super Bowl champ. He can hush the critics with a win over KC today.
And this is Danny Woodhead, the pass-catching running back, activated off the IR. A welcome sight for the 32nd ranked pass offense. You're up, Phil.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Bill. Thanks for warning me. Here's Blake Bortles. Last week, solid against the Los Angeles Chargers. The big question, if they can't run the football, can he win by throwing for the Jaguars?
Stand by to move right. Ready, one? Take one. Stand by to bring it back. Take four.
Roll record on 40.
3, 2, 1.
And hello, everyone. I'm James Brown. We have a big NFL Sunday, including some international flair coming your way right here on CBS. And you know, in a season that began with Super Bowl aspirations, Ben McAdoo and Big Blue have turned into wounded Giants. And with Alex Smith and the Chiefs on tap, things might get worse before they get better. Well, despite the loss of Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay is in the thick of the NFC playoff race at 5-4. The question is, can Brett Hundley and company keep the pack in contention today against the Ravens? And the NFL is throwing a fiesta in Mexico City, and today's guests of honor are Tom Brady and Derek Carr. The silver and black will try to slow down the Pats, who come in red hot looking for their 6th win in a row. All that and more comes your way right here on the NFL Today, presented by Southwest Airlines. I know Phil's going to pull the chair out.
No,
right?
I won't do that.
All right.
Started early
today,
today, though.
You would do it, though. There's no question. Hey, folks, welcome inside of Studio 43. Joined at the desk by our panel of American football experts. They, of course, will be Phil Simms, Boomer Esiason, Nate Burleson, and as I turn to Coach, Week 11 and a starting quarterback is benched?
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor was benched this week, and it kind of prompted me to start thinking about, these teams like the Jets and Cleveland. Your next quarterback, do you go through the draft? Well, maybe you go through free agency, because look at some of the people that may be available to you this offseason. Kirk Cousins, Drew Brees, Case Keenum. Drew Brees, Case Keenum, both league leading their divisions. Well, Drew Brees cannot be franchised, the other two, but these other names could also be out there as well. You talk about Alex Smith, because there's been talk about Patrick Mahomes and Tyrod Taylor. We just talked about him being benched. And you would think in Cincinnati, you would have to make a decision between Andy Dalton and A.J. McCarron. So, maybe it's not just the draft. Maybe it's free agency, but where you find your next quarterback.
Maybe a coaching decision also in Cincinnati. You talked about Danny Woodhead for the Baltimore Ravens. He's back in the lineup today for them. Here's the deal with the Ravens. They are one spot out of the wild card in the AFC. You take a look at their schedule. They finish up very easily. They easily can be 9-7 and make it into the wild card playoff spot. This is why Joe Flacco and his 30th ranked offense going into Green Bay today against Brett Hundley, another backup quarterback, have got to show something today. They got to be more aggressive, get the ball downfield, and win this football game and get their season back on track.
Yeah, here's the reason why you shouldn't change the channel on the Jags and the Browns. Trash talk is back. There's been a lot of bulletin board material sent overnight to the Browns. To Sean Gibson, who's a former Brown, he said they're not going to win a game, and they're not going to score a point on our defense. Dede Westbrook, who led our receivers in the preseason, hasn't played all year. He's been hurt. He's on the field. He said he's going to put up 200 yards, which is video game numbers.
Wow.
Now, listen, my dad always said if you're going to talk that jazz, you got to face the music. If you're going to talk about these Jags, they're going to have to back it up. So I can't wait to see what these teams do, especially if you're the Browns and you know somebody's talking trash. Come on now, let's play some ball.
All right, well, here I am today. I'm going to give you all a little quiz. What do all these teams, no, I'm not a trash talker. What do these teams have in common? New England, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Minnesota, the New Orleans Saints, the Eagles, and the Panthers.
Well, they're all good, man.
They're all good. They got winning records. They got great offensive lines, and they can run the football. And why do I say this? These are big teams. Yeah. And you know what? I learned from Bill Cowher, Bill Parcells, Tom Coughlin. When you're in the NFL, fast teams get slower as the year goes along. Big teams don't get smaller. So it's about imposing your will. These teams can impose their will.
You don't talk trash?
No.
We know better than that. All right, folks, let's kick things off on our early game matchups on the NFL Today right now. The Chiefs fresh off of their bye look to get back to their winning ways as they face the struggling Giants. Phil.
Alex Smith, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception. Boomer, that's ridiculous to be able to do that. Hey, look, they had a bye week this week, the Kansas City Chiefs. So what's that mean? Andy Reid is going to give you the 20 greatest plays in football coming your way. And they're playing a Giant team that's in disarray. This offense needs to roll today. Why? Because the Kansas City defense is not playing that well. So it's up to the offense to protect their defense and really do the job today.
Yeah, Eli Manning, you talk about him, he's going to take his first snap today. And what will that happen? He will then break the record for consecutive games played, that record being held by his brother Peyton. So, but you know what? You talk about where Eli is with this offense. Evan Ingram has been a big plus when you talk about a rookie that stood out. But all the scrutiny is going to be on that defense. All the talk about the effort and the execution on that defensive side of the ball, particularly in the secondary. That's where a lot of the scrutiny and a lot of the attention is going to be going on for the New York Giants.
Hey, let me give Nate some credit because he talked about how we need to focus on Brett Hundley while the Ravens and Packers meet at Lambeau Field with both teams in need of a win to bolster their playoff hopes.
And there's Joe Flacco. Guys, you remember during the Super Bowl run, he was known as Mr. November, Mr. December, and we are here that time of year. He's going to have to make some plays. Just over 1,500 yards in the air, so they got to start stepping up that passing game. Jeremy Maclin, just over 300 yards receiving, so they have to lean on Collins, that running back in that running game. Defensively, though, they are a beast, so they're going to be able to focus him, try to bottle up Brett Hundley, who still is an inexperienced quarterback, even though he's been in the league for quite some time. So we're looking forward to them going out there with all the injuries in Seattle, the Zekeless Cowboys, and the Falcons, them sputtering. The Packers are not out of it, so they got a chance with the young guy at quarterback.
Check this out. The first place Jacksonville Jaguars will take on the Browns, who are still in search of their first win.
You know, and there's Blake Bortles, so we got some weather out in Cleveland.
Look at that.
Let me just tell you something. Phil was talking about it earlier. We want to see Blake Bortles play a consistent football game on the road. They're going against the number 10 ranked run defense. That's the Cleveland Browns. Nate talked about already the trash talking back and forth between these two teams. But ultimately, what I'm looking at is not only Leonard Fournette right there, I'm looking at Blake Bortles. The referendum on him continues. You take a look at their schedule from here on out. It is one of the weakest in the NFL. They should get the 13-3, believe it or not. And Blake Bortles has got to be a big part of that. I want to see him play today in cold weather because in the playoffs, he's probably going to have to either go to Pittsburgh or New England and play against those teams in cold weather as well.
All right, Boom. And for more on what's happening around the league, we welcome in our NFL Today insider, Jason Lock. We'll talk about the Bills benching their quarterback, Tyrod Taylor.
Well, JB, the Bills determined that Taylor had peaked, could not become their franchise QB, switching to rookie Nathan Peterman in hopes of discovering a more aggressive passing attack. Taylor was done in by his conservative approach, pocket issues, and slow starts, sources said. Buffalo scored just 9 first-quarter points in 9 games, struggled to sustain long drives, which led to the bold change to evaluate Peterman now before the 2018 draft. Brandon Beane, the Bills' aggressive GM, he was at the USC-UCLA game yesterday looking at potential first-round QBs. Several GMs told me they expect Taylor to be dealt after the season with the Jags, Broncos, and Cardinals as possible destinations. Speaking of first-round quarterbacks, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam remains enamored with hiring Peyton Manning to oversee his franchise, league sources said. The two are closer than most realize, and Haslam is desperate for a respected football name to reboot his winless team. Perhaps an ownership stake would increase those odds. Packers QB Aaron Rodgers, he remains on track for a Week 15 return from IR if needed, while Broncos' recent first-rounder Paxton Lynch, he's backing up today, could start by next week, sources said. John Elway, he wants to look at his young QB too, JB.
You know what, with all, Jason, thank you so very much. With all due respect to what the Bills are looking at down the road, the objective right now is to do what?
To win.
And if the season ended, the Bills will be in the
6th spot, they will be in the playoffs.
So my question is curious, why now?
Oh, I think you got to be really careful. I understand the limitations as it relates to Tyrod Taylor, but when you look at the last 2 games, they were 5-2. These last 2 games, the defense has given up 81 points. The defense have given up almost 500 yards rushing. That's not Tyrod Taylor. And you talk about the slow starts that Jason made reference to. Listen, Rick Dennison has something to do with that as well. He's the offensive signal caller. They script, most teams do, 10 to 15 plays to start a game. So the start of the game isn't so much on the quarterback as it might be on the signal caller who's in his first year with this offense, with this quarterback. So it's, I think, a little early to kind of push a panic button, which is, I think, the message you're sending to your football team, Phil.
Well,
you surprised?
No. because I watched them during the preseason. Tyrod Taylor played very, very well. So did Peterman, but he was playing against third stringers and second stringers. But I read all the articles, and everybody was writing up in Buffalo, oh, there might be a quarterback controversy. Well, where do they get this information from? And if you're so worried about the quarterback position, you passed up Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson this past year in the draft. So I think this was always in the works. They want to see what Nathan Peterman can do, but I think Jason is right. They're looking at this year's draft, trying to get one of the big guys.
Thank goodness Tyrod's a good kid, good character, so hopefully things will work out for him down the road. Boomer.
Hey, and there is Eli Manning. Coach talked about his starting streak and everything else, but I'll tell you what, he is the leader of a listless ship, I can tell you right now, especially on defense. No Odell Beckham Jr., 20-mile-an-hour winds, not going to be easy for Phil today. Phil, Eli.
It's week 11 in the NFL. Mexico City is rich with stories of athletic success, and more history will be made today.
Perfecto! Tirado ahí por Tom Brady!
When the Pats and Raiders face off El Estadio Azteca. Speaking of the Pats, Tom Brady is crushing Padre time like an AFC East also ran.
And how old is he? Does it matter? He's ageless.
Do any AFC contenders have what it takes to keep TB12 from ring number 6? Over in the NFC, there are some surprises at the top of the divisions.
Philadelphia dominating.
With the best record in the entire National Football League.
Can the 4 current leaders hold off the preseason favorites as the playoffs approach?
You know, we need to go take a long, hard look at the tape.
Okay, Coach McAdoo, message received. And Phil looked at the tape, and he's ready to let everyone know what's gone wrong with the G-Men. All that y más when the NFL Today continues. The NFL Today on CBS Sports is presented by Southwest Airlines. Low fares, no hidden fees. That's transparency.
Time now for Who Are You 11, presented by McDonald's new McCafe Espresso. Well, the Super Bowl champion Patriots and the Raiders, they'll be meeting in the NFL's International Series Week 11 matchup a little more than 4 hours from now in Mexico City at one of the most famous and iconic sporting venues in the world.
Welcome to Estadio Azteca, where later today, the Patriots will take on the Raiders. Here in Mexico, this is holy ground. Home to our national football team, Azteca is revered. For over 50 years, it's a place where heroes became champions. Champions became legends, and wannabes left with broken corazones. From World Cup football to American football, Azteca still holds the record for hosting the largest crowd to ever see an NFL game. If the crowd is with you, playing here is the ultimate home field advantage. Just ask your soccer team. Today, when Tom Brady and Derek Carr step onto this field, they will feel it. Here, you're at over 7,200 feet above sea level. Denver's Mile High? That's nothing. Breathing at this altitude will become a luxury. For the Patriots and the Raiders, I say welcome to Mexico. I hope you're ready for each other, and I hope you're ready for Azteca.
Wow, certainly no shortage of history there, and perhaps some more to come a little later today. But right now, let's take it over to Coach and Nate.
Appreciate it, JB. Now, Coach, you've always said in order to be a good team in this league, you got to adapt and you have to adjust. We were looking at the Pats defense early on in the season, on pace to be one of the worst defenses in the league. And as we can see, they started from the bottom, and now they're here. How have they done it, Coach?
You know, he talked about sitting down with Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, after the first 4 weeks, right prior to the Tampa Bay game. They had sat there and said, you know what, it's correctable, because you know what, you points allowed. Why? Because you're giving up too many big plays. That's why we went from last to 10th. Points allowed is low because, you know why? We're keeping them out of the end zone, better red zone play. When you look at what they've done, Nate, they've done it with 2 things.
Show me some plays, Coach.
Communication has been much better, and they're playing more zone.
Okay,
again,
bringing pressure.
See here, you drop in the zone, but you're matching routes. You're able to get the pressure, but matching routes in the secondary, and you can see there's nowhere to throw the ball, so the communication was there, and you can see right now the zone defense has helped them.
Okay, so disciplined coverage behind bringing pressure. pressure. What about the bunch formations we saw them struggle with early on in the season?
And we saw receivers running flat open. But what they've done here again is you talk about the communication. You look at them. Everybody knows where they need to be. There's balance on that defensive side. There's pressure up here, crossing routes. There's nobody running into each other, and they're tackling very well, keeping people out of the end zone. Communication, red zone defense, which is more zone, has allowed them to play so much better on the defensive side of the ball.
Great stuff, Coach. Early in the season, I remember you pointing out that they were actually pointing more fingers than communicating. So you're right, they definitely adjusted. Now over to Boom, JB, and Phil to talk about the ageless wonder, the timeless Tom Brady.
Hey, Nate, thank you so very much. Now, they covered the defense awfully well, but look, on the offensive side of the ball, Tom Brady, not just beating Father Time, he's flat out destroying it.
He really is. In the last 4 years alone, I was telling Phil, probably better than most quarterbacks' entire career. But just take a look at this. This is best in the NFL this year. He'll be in the MVP conversation for sure. And you take a look at the way that he played in Denver last week. It was a clinic on how to play quarterback. You know, the thing that amazes me most about all of this is that he's 40 years old. And he's got maybe one of the best lifestyles in the world. He's got a beautiful wife, beautiful kids. He's got more money than he can speak of. But I'm just saying,
it's always about the money, but go ahead.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, where is the desire coming from to continue to do this? Because we both know the anxiety that goes into it. And I know he's had the same coach since his
17 years.
And he's had that same offense for 17 years, which is really something to be said about as well.
Yeah, look, you know, and this is not an overstatement. He's throwing the football now is better than he probably has in his whole career. And how do I know that? Because I've watched him all 17 of those years. The velocity on the passes, their perfect spirals are easy to catch. The power, the touch, and his technique is impeccable. And Boomer, you know this. When you're a quarterback and you can throw the football exactly where you want it to go, you become what? A great decision maker, because you see the small window, you're able to throw it into it. He's like a baseball pitcher who at will can just paint the corners, or a golfer can hit a draw, a fade, whatever he wants. And you think about this from this end. You're a New England coach, Josh McDaniels. He goes in there and gets on the chalkboard, and whatever he puts up on the chalkboard, he can say, well, my quarterback can do that. So sideline to sideline, 50 yards down the field, it is all good. He is throwing it great.
Sustained excellence, the desire. You mentioned technique, but what's driving this guy to
greatness? My God, if I could throw it like that and I was on that team, I would be motivated to keep going. You know, wouldn't you, Boomer?
4 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs, 5 Super Bowl championships. I'll tell you, I don't think we'll ever see it again, ever. I mean, that's why I considered him the greatest 4 years ago, and he's only added on.
Why eat 1 bowl of ice cream when you can eat 2? I mean, he's got it all going for him right now. It's good stuff.
Champion at the bit for more. All right,
like you've eaten to it.
We're looking forward to the showdown in Mexico's capital. As a matter of fact, Mexico City has a unique history filled with character, charm, and a rich cultural heritage. Now, most of the country's rabid Patriots and Raiders fans, they live in Mexico City, and much like the passionate fans in Oakland and New England, they share a love for the game that we call football.
We are the founders of the biggest Raider club in all the country.
Raider Nation MX! And I am the Patriot biggest fan in all Mexico.
Mexico City is Raider Nation. Is going to be a home game.
Nobody can stop the Patriots right now.
We have the best quarterback.
Defensive line that are going to put pressure all the time on Tom Brady.
I love the Patriots because they are champions.
I'm a Raider fan since I was born. My dad is a Raider fan.
My favorite player is Tom Brady.
Khalil Mack.
Julian Edelman, porque Edelman atrapa todo.
Derek Carr.
Rob Gronkowski, because yo soy fiesta.
Go Raiders!
Let's go!
Go Raiders! Let's go!
Just win, baby!
The NFL Today is sponsored by FedEx. Choose FedEx Ground for your affordable and fast shipping. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. And by Southwest Airlines. Low fares, no hidden fees. That's transparency.
The Chiefs have made hunger relief a key focus of the organization's outreach efforts, and through the Chiefs Kingdom Food Drive, which encourages fans to make donations to the cause, the club is able to aid in food donation benefiting local families in need. And that takes us inside the pregame HQ, delivered by Domino's.
Well, there's quarterback Brett Hundley last week solid against the Chicago Bears, the Packers. Are they in the playoff hunt at 5-4? Can they hang with the top teams in the NFC?
easy.
When you've got Carson Wentz, a lot of things look easy.
Philadelphia,
With the best record in the entire National Football League.
dominating the NFC East.
It's a pick six. Savage had it knocked out. Spins and falls and Pater.
Gurley.
Goodbye. Touchdown Rams. Let's go.
The Rams keep rolling. Best start in 16 years.
Time for this team. Take it to the next level.
Breeze fires. End zone. Touchdown.
As the Saints run their winning streak to 7. Domination by the Saints.
What that saying? They're going to beat them Saints.
And the Minnesota Vikings, a first-place team. That's 5 consecutive wins. And we just swept over Washington. The Minnesota Vikings are kings of the North.
And a pair of big NFC matchups here in Week 11 between the Rams and the Vikings, and the Eagles and Cowboys coming up later tonight. All of that could go a long way in determining the balance of power in the conference. And as it stands right now, the Eagles solidly the top seed in the NFC, followed by the Vikings, Saints, and Rams. But our guy, Coach Cowher, sees it just a little different.
Yeah, JP, I think when you look at it, I have my top team being the New Orleans Saints. I just think the way they're playing right now, they are 7-2. They've won 7 straight. I love their running game and everything about them, and their defense, the way they've played. And then I have the Philadelphia Eagles, number 2 at 8-1. Number 3, I have the Rams. They were sitting there, again, one of the exciting offenses in the National Football League, and then the Minnesota Vikings. So I think all these guys are division leaders right now, but I just think the New Orleans Saints right now, to me, are on the top because I think they're playing their best football, and I think they're the most balanced right now.
Wow, you know, I'm not being a troublemaker. I agree with you. How about that? For once, I agree with Bill.
Must be wrong.
You could be. Look, their offensive line is tremendous, but look at what they have done in the draft, especially last year. You know, the first round, Marshawn Lattimore, he could be the Rookie of the Year playing corner. Ryan Remchek starting at right tackle with the best offensive line unit, I think, in the NFL. Marcus Williams has come in and started at safety, doing a tremendous job. And then how about Alvin Kamara running the football, the speed, going down the field, catching passes, all perfect fits for this New Orleans Saints team. That's why I think they're the best.
Yeah, well, I don't agree with either one of you guys.
Oh.
Actually, no, I still think it's the Eagles, and that's why the Eagles are playing the Cowboys today. And the thing about the Cowboys is that they are not the Cowboys that we knew coming into the season. No Zeke Elliott, no Tyron Smith, and no Sean Lee. Those are 3 pretty big misses for the Dallas Cowboys. But how about the Eagles? You know, after they lost to Kansas City out in Kansas City, everybody saying, well, you're not running the ball enough, you're not running the ball enough. Now they're running it down everybody's throat, and they add Jay Ajayi to this mix. And on top of all of that, you have MVP candidate Carson Wentz out playing the expectations anybody could have had for him coming into the season. I'm telling you, they are hot, they are fast, they are active, and they have a guy by the name of Fletcher Cox on the other side. Pretty good. You know what he is? You know what he is? He kills games for the other team. That's what he does.
He's a world beater is what we call him on the offense side of the ball. You know, you're talking about Carson Wentz, and we know they've had a bye, and he's been on his vacation hunting. But here's the thing. He's been hunting all season. It's been big game every single Sunday, and he hasn't been missing his target. But I love the fact that they brought in help. They brought in Jay Ajayi to add to that team. But it's more than that, though. It's that defense. Shout out to my former head coach, Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator. He out there. He got these guys the #1 break rushing defense. Now, if you're going to go out there and light up the skies of Carson Wentz and control the ball on the ground, you got to be able to stop the run, and that's what they're doing.
And Jim Schwartz uses like 7 guys that rotate, so they're very fresh at the end of a game. But I tell you, when you look at the game, to me, of the day, it's going to be the Rams going to Minnesota. They're playing this game inside. You're talking about one of the highest scoring offenses, that being the LA Rams, going against one of the best defenses in the National Football League in Minnesota Vikings. So I like Jared Goff, Todd Gurley in this game. But again, Case Keenum, there's a lot of talk about him. You know, they decided on Wednesday, Phil, to go ahead and start him. I think it was a good decision, huh?
Yeah, they decided on Wednesday. Why did they ever start this mess? Listen, I've watched all the Minnesota Viking games, and Case Keenum, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's only been sacked 5 times. He's making a lot of plays with his feet, getting out of the pocket. He's a fearless thrower of the football. You know, he's not checked down Charlie, worried about his completion percentage. And look, I hate this word, but I'm going to say it anyway. The man has juice.
Okay.
I mean, he's got it. When he's out on the field, you can see the energy that he brings. So I'm just saying this to the organization. Why bring it up? Why give a distraction to the players, to the fans, and the media that there's a quarterback controversy we're trying to decide.
Speaking of juice, I like the word sparks. On that Thursday night game when we saw them play Philadelphia Eagles against Carolina, you showed me that defense smacks you in the mouth.
They impose themselves.
Oh, they're serious. Hey, folks, and a reminder, join us on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, as the NFL on CBS carries on a holiday tradition. It'll feature a matchup between the Chargers and the Cowboys. Coverage begins with a special edition of the NFL Today at 4 Eastern right here on CBS. And, folks, we will keep the conversation going here, but with kickoff just about a half hour away, time now to set the scene at your game as we take you out first on the field for the latest news and updates on your matchup.
Two teams just on the outside of the playoffs looking in with temperatures in the 20s with a lot of wind as the Baltimore Ravens take on the Green Bay Packers. Hi, everyone. Kevin Harlan with the NFL MVP, Rich Gannon. It was middle of October when Brett Hundley took over for the injured Aaron Rodgers for Green Bay.
Yeah, he's making just his 4th career start, but I really think he's coming off his best performance of the season in that win over the Bears last week. He made a couple big-time throws late to Devontae Adams to seal the victory. As for the Ravens, quarterback Joe Flacco, he just hasn't looked comfortable in the offense this season, and that's a huge problem for offensive coordinator Marty Mornhinweg. They've got to find a way to get him going.
Rich, the Packers lost 2 running backs last week in Chicago against the Bears, so today they're starting a 3rd-string running back and a rookie at that.
Yeah, they'll be without Aaron Jones. He's out with a knee. Ty Montgomery nursing the rib injury, so Jamal Williams gets a huge opportunity. He's a physical one-cut between the tackles, downhill runner. And the Ravens' Alex Collins has been a real bright spot. His 5.6 yards per carry averages the 2nd best in the league. And the return of Danny Woodhead from a hamstring injury is huge for this Ravens offense.
All right, a veteran tandem, we know at receiver for the Ravens, Rich, but not making the impact they had hoped for.
Yeah, the receivers have been disappointing. Wallace just 20 receptions. You look at Macklin, he's got 27 catches. They need more from this position group. In fact, Rashad Perryman, the former #1 pick, won't even play today. He's a healthy scratch.
Macklin, though, coming off a good game a couple weeks ago against Tennessee. Rich, give me a couple defensive players to watch this afternoon.
Well, the Packers had 5 sacks last week against Mitchell Trubisky and the Bears, and Nick Perry had a career-high 3. And for the Ravens, I think it's Jimmy Smith, who I think is having his best season as a pro. In fact, opposing quarterbacks have a league-low passer rating when throwing in his direction.
The Ravens are 4-5. The Packers are 5-4. We go back to the NFL Today after this on CBS Sports.
In the year 1919, my grandfather moved his family from Durango, Mexico to Fresno, California, escaping men who claimed to be Pancho Villa's bandits. My father was 12 years old at the time and immediately started working. Never went to school, never got a chance to get an education. And he worked hard, eventually owning a little neighborhood store called a tienda. And that meant we could go to school and have a shot at a better life. I was always very proud, not just to be the first quarterback for the Raiders, but the first Latino quarterback in the old AFL, and the first Latino coach to win a Super Bowl. And looking back, I was blessed to be a role model for a lot of young Latino kids and their families who were football fans. That's one of the main reasons why holding an NFL game, and a Raider game in particular, in Mexico's most famous stadium means so much. Not just to me, but to all the Latino Americans who love the game of football. I couldn't be prouder to play a part in the history of the sport that's headed back to Mexico City today. And to my Raiders, I know the Pats are a tough matchup, but as an old friend of mine used to say, solo gana, baby.
No, I understand. Oh, man, Coach, he has to mean something special to
Well,
you.
he does. 2 Super Bowl wins, should be a Hall of Fame coach. When I first came into the league in 1992, Marty Schottenheimer took me upon his wings, said, I want you to come to lunch with me. And I was there with Tom Flores, Dan Reeves, and Don Shula. I was like a fly on the wall. I tried to soak everything in. You're talking about great people, but these are also great coaches. And I'll tell you what, they meant a world to me, my mentors.
And the letters HOF ought to be following
No
his
question.
name, Hall of Famer. Holy cow. All right, folks, let's go out live now to Mexico City and Estadio Azteca to welcome in our colleague Tony Romo, who will be calling the Patriots-Raiders matchup. I heard from my guys, Tony, but how, in your opinion, has Tom Brady been playing so well at age 40?
Well,
There's a couple reasons. One, he's like the teacher now. So he has all the answers, to the test. And so when he goes out there, when quarterbacks play, you know your system and you're trying to read what the defense is doing. Well, he knows the responsibility of every single player on that defense. So when he shows up, he already has a whole history built up of what beats this system, what beats this sort of zone coverage. And really just as they morph, he has all the answers to that. And so to him, playing football right now, it's fun because he's the teacher showing up, teaching the class.
Tony, let's talk big picture in the AFC. We got Pittsburgh, New England, of course, Jacksonville, even Kansas City. But who do you think is the top team in the AFC right now?
Well, I think we're going to go with New England until someone, obviously shows us they can take them, in the postseason. I mean, Pittsburgh's the obvious one. They're a complete football team, but schematically, Pittsburgh plays a zone defense, their zone blitz defense, and Tom Brady moves zone teams around on a joystick. You want to play that zone defender? I'm going to move you left, move you right, and throw right where you were supposed to be. And so that's always a tough matchup for Pittsburgh when they play them late in the year. And then the other one that I think is sneaky is Jacksonville. That's a matchup, if you're New England, that you don't want to see come January because they will play man-to-man. They will get in your face. They'll be very physical at the line of scrimmage, and they'll put pressure on the quarterback with their front four.
All right, Tony, we know how passionate you are about the game. Thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to hearing your call this afternoon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, so we just heard Tony's opinion on the top squad in the AFC. The Steelers are currently in first place with the Patriots just behind them. The Jags, you heard him talk about them, and the Chiefs round out the top four. But does Boomer agree with that?
I don't. I beg to differ, JB, actually. I do agree with Tony Romo that New England should be number one. Pittsburgh will be number two. Then Jacksonville because of that defense and because of the additions to that defense. And that's why the big question for me is Blake Bortles in a game like today against Cleveland in bad weather against a pretty good defense. And then, of course, Kansas City follows up, mainly because their defense has fallen off here a little bit, and they're going to be missing a couple guys against the Giants today. So when you take a look at these schedules for these four teams moving forward, don't be surprised if somewhere along the line they're all 13-3 at the end of the year, and we may have all sorts of situations in terms of the seeding, but I still like New England to be number one.
I want to fall in love with Jacksonville, but after watching them last week, I almost hand that game away, and then putting the pressure on Blake Bortles, throwing the ball 51 times, no Fournette, the running game wasn't there, but like you said, it's that defense. But going back to Pittsburgh, I think this could be the most interesting team because we've seen them play well in spots. Antonio Brown had the big game. Of course, Juju is starting to make his thing happen. Martavis Bryant hasn't had that big game. So imagine Big Ben takes care of the ball. You got Le'Veon running, AB doing his thing, Juju and Martavis. This could be the most weapons we've seen in the league out of all the teams.
And I know Tony made reference to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and they play the zone, blitz zone. But I'll tell you what, this is a team that is fast and active. And I'll tell you, they may be young, but when you watch what they can do, particularly up front with Cam Hayward, Stephen Tuitt, and Shazier and Williams as linebackers, they can fly around. They get after you. And Artie Burns in the secondary with Joe Hayden, who they picked up from the Cleveland Browns. This is an experience. And there's Sean Davis, who may quietly be having a Pro Bowl type of year. We saw what they did in terms of taking the football away on the Thursday night game. They're third in the league in sacks. This is a very good football team. We will find out in Week 15. They have a matchup right here on CBS, and that could be for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But I really like this defense. Of the,
you know, Bill, I agree with you, but I got to see it to believe it. Because I look at the Patriots offense, everything they can do, they're so multiple. And just look at some of these numbers. I'm not a numbers guy, but 5 players with 30-plus receptions. So who do you focus on? So 5 players with 350-plus yards receiving. Again, they line up everywhere. 7 players with 300 yards plus from the scrimmage. So you do all that. They got all these parts that move around. They got so many different offenses they can do. What does it do? So it prevents, now they can overcome injuries because they got guys that play multiple positions. It creates competition. And when they go out to practice, they compete for playing time on the offensive side.
And it also overcomplicates your preparation when you're getting ready for them.
Got to do it all.
Got to study for everybody.
Plus 2 huge tight ends.
Talking about studying for everybody. There's Aaron Rodgers, and there's a chance he could see him back in Week 15. But he's on the sideline today to try to help out his man.
Well, there's Giants second-year head coach Ben McAdoo. His team coming off another embarrassing loss last week. In this week's edition of the NFL Before Today, Coach, what would you say?
They all played us today. They all coached me today. we need to go take a long, hard look at the tape. Again, we need to go take a long, hard look at the tape and make sure we go take a long look at the tape.
This is just ugly football, ugly defense.
Again, I'm going to go look at the tape.
Manning steps up, gets sacked, ball came out.
We got to look at the film.
It's almost comical what you're seeing right here.
We're going to go back. We're going to take a long look at the tape. We'll take a look at the tape. We have to go correct the tape. We have to do one thing first. We have to take a look at the tape.
This team, man.
What you say?
So now we know our guy, you look at tape quite a bit. What did you see?
Well, Coach told me to look at the tape, so I did, and we were asked to pick out a couple plays that illustrates what they do. It was hard to do because there was about 20. The first play you go against the defense every year at training camp is a crosser by a wide receiver, post over the top. The corner should fall back, the safety should come up, but nobody covers Lewis Murphy going across the field, and he gets a plus 40-yard completion. Now, overplaying, discipline, they did this too. Linebackers over-pursuing, and there's Matt Breida, the running back. He sees the linebackers over-pursuing, he cuts it back. He walks into the end zone for a long touchdown run, and there were many plays. Both of those illustrations, there were many plays that I saw like that for the Giants last week. You know, when you talk about coaching an NFL team, respect, admiration, and fear, I think they're all the same thing. And I learned this, Dan Reeves, the first day that Dan Reeves and was our head coach, he came in, gave a quick speech. He put his notepad on the lectern. He said, men, put your feet on the floor, sit up straight, and take those dang hats off. And I said, you know what? That's the man that's got my attention, my respect, and we went on and won.
You know, they had some hard talks, they said, this week. I think it might have been a few weeks too late because they needed to have these a lot earlier. But I think I'll say this about their defense. A lot of scrutiny is going to be out there in regards to their efforts. They benched, and Eli Apple is not active today, a healthy scratch. Maybe a message was sent right there. But I've got to tell you right now, if you run a finesse offense and you don't have good offense, it will trickle down into your defense. I think that is what has happened here with the New York Giants.
They're going to experience something today that I experienced as the Jet head quarterback, and that is playing in front of an angry fan base. They're going to hear it today. It's not going to be pretty, and they're playing against one of the best offenses in football.
He said respect, admiration, and fear are all the same thing. I'm going to do a little etymological study on that one to see if they come from the same derivative.
In the football vernacular.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, folks, time now for the NFL Today picks delivered by FedEx. Upset specials, and we start with the wordsmith himself, Phil.
Well, my upset special is the Arizona Cardinals over the Houston Texans. You got something to say about that, Bill? Huh? You got anything to say? Hey, look, I'm taking them. You know why? I'm taking Arizona Cardinals because I'm all in on Blaine Gabbert, baby. He's going to get it done today.
Well, I'm going to talk about a game that's got playoff implications, not the one you're talking about. I'm going to take the Rams over the Vikings. That's going to be a really good game. It's offense over defense. And the only reason I'm saying that, it's played inside, and I think the Rams offense is just so explosive.
Yeah, Coach, I'm also going to talk about a game that matters, and it's the Packers losing or beating up on Baltimore Ravens. I got Brett Hundley out there. Hasn't thrown an interception over the last couple of weeks. In Baltimore, they're needing this win, but I feel like the Packers are going to get things straight.
I appreciate you two guys because you picked the game that actually matters. Right. I'm going to pick a game that matters as well. Yes, the Falcons at the Seattle Seahawks. Wow. Seahawks lose Cam Chancellor this week. They're not going to have Richard Sherman there. I have taken the Falcons. They're getting their season back on track.
Me and I and Little Nate say give him some credit. It's a Good Morning Football with Kay, Kyle, and Peter. We had to get that in there. All right, folks, go to NFL.com/FedEx. Cast your vote for the FedEx Air and Ground Players of the Week. And don't forget to follow along to see all of our picks. Kickoff only a few moments away. Back with more.
I'm just trying to win. It's about winning.
The NFL Today on CBS Sports is presented by Southwest Airlines. Low fares, no hidden fees. That's transparency.
And welcome back to the NFL Today. Right now, the Ravens and the Packers are getting set for their matchup. And as we approach kickoff, we send you out live to Green Bay with our announcers, Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, and Jenny Dell.
The wind chill is 16 degrees in Green Bay, Wisconsin for the Baltimore Ravens and the Green Bay Packers. Each team in the thick of a playoff race and each team just on the outside looking in, which makes for a pretty interesting afternoon coming up here in Wisconsin. Happy holidays, everyone, with the NFL MVP, Rich Gannon, and Jenny Dell on our sideline, Kevin Harlan. We just saw a picture of Brett Hundley right there. He is taking the place of the injured Aaron Rodgers. He has started 4 games. He is coming off his first win. People think, Rich, watching him, that he's getting better game by game, and in fact, quarter by quarter. Well, what do you think?
I think every time out, Kevin, is really a learning experience for the young quarterback, and I think he's quickly realized that the game speed during the regular season is significantly different than it is in the preseason. But as Mike McCarthy has pointed out, his confidence has grown with each performance, and I really felt he made a couple of big throws late in that win over the Bears last week. I mean, you look here, does a great job previewing the secondary. He's going to start to his left. He's able to see that he doesn't have the go route, so he works back across the field. He goes through his progressions, and then he sees Davante Adams off the scramble. Watch him point to the end zone. He makes an Aaron Rodgers-type throw. Really, it helps seal the victory against the Bears. And I just felt like as the game went on, he got more and more confident, trusting the protection, sitting in there and making good throws down the field. But he's really going to be challenged today by a really good Ravens defense. That's number 3 versus the pass, and number 1 in takeaways with 13. They've got a solid pass rush, an excellent blitz package, and a veteran secondary full of ball hawks like Pro Bowl safety Eric Weddle and cornerback Jimmy Smith. As a quarterback, you have to see these two when you throw in their direction, because they will bait you into making a mistake.
Well, they've spent a lot of money on that secondary. In fact, their first-round pick was out of Alabama, another defensive back, and the defense has really carried the offense. And there have been some issues there for quarterback Joe Flacco in that side of the ball.
Yeah, you know, Joe Flacco's won a lot of games as a starting quarterback in this league, but for whatever reason, he just hasn't looked comfortable in the offense this season, and that's a big problem right now for offensive coordinator Marty Mornhinweg. They've got to find a way to get him going. I think the wide receivers need to step up big time. As a position group, they've been a major disappointment. A bit of good news for Flacco is that he gets back running back Danny Woodhead, who's been nursing a hamstring injury since week 1.
And that offense of the Ravens will go up against a Green Bay Packer defense, Rich, which in all the significant categories right now is in the bottom 10 in the NFL.
Yeah, but after having just 4 sacks in the previous 5 games combined, the Packers unloaded on Mitch Trubisky and the Bears for 5 sacks, including 3 from outside linebacker Nick Perry. That was a career high. Overall, I thought it was the Packers' best all-around performance on defense so far this season.
Time now for Do Project Smarter, Rich, presented by Home Depot.
Well, Davante Adams has quickly become one of the best wide receivers in the business as he leads the Packers with 42 catches and 6 touchdowns. And I think Baltimore's Jimmy Smith is having his best season as a pro, as quarterbacks have a league-low passer rating when throwing in his direction. And now for the keys to the game. For the Ravens to get where they want to go, they need more production from their passing game in the second half of the season. As for the Packers, head coach Mike McCarthy said everyone around Brett Hundley needs to perform better in order to help their young signal caller, and that includes players and coaches alike.
An intriguing game at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. The 4-5 Baltimore Ravens. The 5-4 Green Bay Packers. We come back to Green Bay after this. You're watching the NFL on CBS.